Well, it's just started to rain. It is monsoon season, and that is one of the major challenges here. Every year you do have people that die. You do have these rains wash down some of these bamboo makeshift huts because they're all built on what used to be a forest. This all used to be a massive forest that had to be cut down for when these people came. So it is hilly and it is very prone to landslides. So just one of the challenges. And again, you know, you have 1 million people here. You heard in our package that's the same population as Islamabad, but it simply doesn't have the infrastructure to cope. So challenging times ahead. The local community also getting quite frustrated with the presence here. It does need to be resolved, but it's not looking any closer to that at the moment.
Al Jazeera's Stephanie Decker reporting live there from the Kutupalong refugee camp in Bangladesh. Steph, many thanks indeed. Well, the Rohingya have been fleeing violence in Myanmar for decades. Some of them have tried to reach Indonesia, Malaysia and Thailand by boat, but most have crossed into Bangladesh by land. There are now more than 1 million refugees in camps along the border. Bangladesh plans to move thousands of them to a remote island to ease overcrowding. But rights groups say that that could spark a new crisis because the island is prone to flooding. And a second attempt to send some of the refugees back to Myanmar has failed. Many refuse to return, saying that it just isn't safe. But the camps too can be dangerous. The UN has warned that an increasing number of Rohingya are being tricked by people traffickers and sold into slavery. Athena Rayburn is head of advocacy for Save the Children's Rohingya Response. She joins us now via Skype from Cox's Bazar. Good to have you with us. As we heard there live from Stephanie, it's just begun to rain. It's the rainy season. 2 years on, what are conditions like for refugees living in that refugee camp?
So 2 years on into the crisis, we've got almost 1 million refugees, and over 500,000 of those are children. They're still living in temporary shelters that are made out of plastic, bamboo. As we heard, they're really susceptible to landslides and flooding. The children that we speak to and work with tell us that they feel unsafe. They worry about violence, they worry about trafficking, they worry about drugs. And whilst we are now past the first phase humanitarian response and people aren't starving, they have food, they have access to medical services, there's also no outlook for a bright future or a possible solution.
The Bangladesh government says that it's going to take a, quote, firmer line with refugees. It wants them moved or repatriated. Are conditions any better for them in Rakhine State, home in Myanmar? What do these people have to return to?
From what we've seen, the conditions in Myanmar have not improved and, in fact, in some areas have worsened. In northern Rakhine, for example, there is still no humanitarian access. And in order for the Rohingya to return, Myanmar must commit to actually addressing the root causes of this issue, which go far beyond the violence that sparked this most recent exodus 2 years ago. In addition to that, it's now 2 years later, and no perpetrators of crimes against the Rohingya have been brought to justice. The Rohingya cannot have a future in Myanmar unless justice is pursued and perpetrators are brought to account.
So what role, if any, does the international community have to play here?
The international community must continue to apply pressure on Myanmar to change these conditions. In addition to that, the UN Security Council must act to immediately refer the situation in Myanmar to the International Criminal Court.
Athena Rayburn from Save the Children. Good to talk to you. Many thanks, Athena.